Did you hear that thing in my voice when you got off the plane to come visit?
The quiver? I call it quiver lip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Matt? Oh, I'm great. I'm doing all right. Why? Oh, well, my daughter's in a different country. And I was like, oh, interesting. My daughter's in a different country too. Actually, she was on the way.
Yeah.
I didn't get confirmation until the air tag that I planted on them made it.
Yeah. Dirtbag.
I didn't plant it.
I
It was
will
just on
track
the
you globally. There is no part of this planet you can go to.
It was just on the car keys, but I was able to see, oh, they landed.
Yeah.
So my daughter's in Africa now.
Yes.
With my wife, and your daughter.
She's in northern Mexico with some friends, and she's there with a buddy of mine who I've known since forever. Great dude. I've traveled all over the place with him as well. He gets it. It makes me feel better about it, that I know how he handles his business, and he's looking out for her, and that makes me feel good. But no, what you were hearing in my voice is not that she's in another country. No, you were hearing a little bit in my voice that she's in another country. The big thing you were hearing is, I know what's about to happen. She's going to change. She's going to experience something on this service project trip that she's doing with her fledgling Spanish. No, it's more than fledgling. She's beyond beginner. She's worked really hard on her Spanish. But she's going out into the great wide world with some skills she's been working on, and she doesn't know exactly how to do it or what she's doing, but she's going to go try to give away something that's been given to her. She's going to go try to do something redemptive and be the little girl in the arena, and it's going to change her.
Her world just got infinitely bigger.
Yes. It's very hard to go through the pain and pressures of the maturation process to get to a point where that's just who you are. I'm not there yet, and I hope that she gets there way before my age. But I heard on the phone just now a huge step. She just wanted to tell me about 3 or 4 different kids, and she hadn't really heard everything about their stories, and they're carrying stuff with them. Something was awakened in her heart in Mexico in the last few days while they're pounding nails into a frame of this house that they're working on.
This is my daughter's second time to go to Africa, and the first time she came back very, very different for a lot of reasons.
But it seems like you like her, so it was good different?
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very good. And a lot of those speak into her personality and things like that, and that's not for public consumption.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's a big deal, man. And so what are you scared about? Are you scared that she's going to come back and, I don't know.
I'm not scared. It's not scared.
Are you mourning?
Yes. Nailed it.
What are you mourning?
We think of grief as being a thing that is about death or loss. But the truth is, we're always grieving after a certain point in life at the passage of moments. We will never be what we were 3 years ago again. And that's okay. It's great. It's how it should be. I mean, we'd be bored with how we were 3 years ago if we were the same for the next 3 years. We're not static. We're always growing. We're being exposed to new things, and that's great. And especially in a young family where you got 3 kids running around, 4 in your case, they're all learning and are all growing at the same time. That transformation, that evolution of the moment is always happening. But you have these moments, for me especially, being a parent has awakened these, where I just realize over nothing, like some silly little thing happens, and I realize, the moment we were in is over. This is a new moment. I've decided I'm going to love it, but I'm going to take a moment to grieve the passage of the old age and to switch toward excitement about the new age that's in front of us. And I sense an epoch. She's going from little kid to something new. She's figuring out some things already on this trip. They're going to shape how she lives, and I bet what she does.
Who she is.
It's formative. Yeah, it's formative. I'm not there, and I'm not shaping it. And that's so good and so important. There's a weird mixture of me thinking about the things that I study and think about, missions and theology and culture and the evolution of ideas and the collision of cultures and colonialism and economics and globalism. I mean, there's just a billion different things I'm thinking about that are just the idea level. But also, that's my little girl, man. She makes my heart so soft. I do not have the capacity. I don't know how to love anything more than I love her. If I figured out how to love someone more, I would give that to her and I would love her that much more. She is my just 10 out of 10 along with the other 2 and my wife. That's as hard as I know how to care about something.
So right now, she's your favorite.
No, heck no. I'm not.
No.
owning that.
No.
No way.
You sure?
Yeah, no way. No. Oh, the other two are in such awesome places. No, you don't get to box me into that corner. Heck no. I somehow have mastered the art of I love where you're all at, and this is awesome.
My wife and I have this game that we play because that's the thing. It's like
forbidden.
it's
What are
my
you
favorite.
doing?
And so my wife and I have this game, and that one's not my favorite.
But just like right now for the moment,
Yeah,
because they're being a turd.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, that
so,
works
so
for
our
me. I
four
can do that.
kids is like, hey, how are things going? Yeah, that one's not my favorite. That one's not my favorite right now because of the one thing they're doing today. That's and then so it's a joke, but yeah, it's really really fun. So
who I want to try that on is my dog.
yeah,
Yeah, Maya feels things.
your dog is awesome.
Thank you.
Your dog is learning English.
You like my dog, and it's weird that it matters to me that you like my dog, but it matters to me that you like my dog.
I like your dog.
I like my dog too.
Yeah, I do too.
She's learning English.
She is.
Yeah, her Spanish is trash. But she's doing really
Those
well
little
at
buttons in the room. So you have these buttons
Yes.
just for the third chair. I'm here in South Dakota,
Mhm.
and you've got these little buttons, and you've recorded your voice and your family's
Camilla's voice.
voice, and they're different buttons that mean different things. And she hits the outside button, go outside, then she
Yes.
gets to go outside. And
Uh-huh.
there's the outside button. There's food or eat. What is it?
Food.
Yeah,
Food.
food,
And she'll just
food, food.
It's like Baby Yoda when in that one part of the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda gets like a big armor suit. And there's a button that says yes and a button that says no.
But the thing that
And that
find
inspired us.
the thing that I find strange is that you have one button that's what is it? Instant death? Is that it?
Yeah, instant death. Mm-hmm.
Why did you make that button?
Well, we wanted there to be stakes. And we have one other pet.
Outside, food, and instant death.
Yeah, water, bedtime, instant death.
Yeah.
Now, she's pushed the food button a ton of times.
Yes.
She's pushed the outside button a ton, presumably whenever she wants to go outside.
What happens when she pushes the instant death
Instant summary execution.
button? Really?
Yeah, I hate it. But it came with the
Such a good
it came
dog.
with the package. We bought it on Amazon. I don't know why they made that button. And I should just throw it away, but
I mean, do you want her to know English?
I want her to know English and I want her to understand consequences. Oh, dude, it's hard for me to even joke about that.
I know, it was fun.
I love that dog.
Dude, I don't want to. Yeah, we have to be careful here. We recently had a dog die.
I know.
We can't. We have to be
Yeah,
careful.
We were on the
'cause-
phone a lot,
Yeah, we were.
and I like that dog.
Yeah, it's a good dog. Good dog.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
No, we're still on Maya. Isn't the please thing sweet?
It's ridiculous.
That she will sit down, and if you say please, she'll give you the one paw.
What's interesting is I sat down and I'm leaning, like I'm sitting on a couch and I'm leaning to one side because we were watching the basketball game last night. And I cross my leg like this, and I have my foot, like the top of my foot is kind of up in an angle. And Maya, she just comes over and she indexes herself on my foot so that the top of my foot is like cradling her belly, and she's standing up on all fours. And I was like, why is the top of my foot warm?
Yeah.
There's no pressure. She's not pushing on my foot. She's just like, I'm going to spoon your foot.
You are welcome to move your foot back and forth rhythmically if you want to
Exactly.
on my abdomen.
Yeah. So you kind of bob your leg back and forth when you cross your legs like this. And she's like, and then Camilla goes, yeah, she does that with me. That's why she's doing that with you. Because I was like, what are you doing, Maya? She's like, she wants you to rub her belly. I was like, oh, that's pretty
And there
good.
goes a little curly tail.
You made that as simple for me as possible,
Yes.
Maya. Yes, I
Yeah.
will move my foot back and forth. And bob. Yeah. What was interesting, though, is on the toe that I hurt
Yeah.
yesterday in the driveway. And so it was on the toe that I hurt. And so I thought, I just thought she was attacking me for a second, but it wasn't. It was just, the nerve endings on the exposed end of my toe.
Which you got by going goblin mode on children for no reason.
Well, we framed this trip.
What are you doing?
We framed this trip as a fishing trip. Hey, boy, I brought the boys. Hey,
Yeah.
we're going to go up. We're going to visit Mr. Matt, my oldest. I want him to talk to you about basketball and things like that. That's been going great. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate
My
that.
pleasure.
But I just wanted to have interactions with the kids. And so we started doing that. And then we're inside and we're looking out the window and they're playing tag. I'm like, you know what? I just want to make a memory with my kids of playing tag.
You did.
I want to play tag in the front yard with the kids. And so I ran out there and I looked at my oldest son who's tall and I was like, who's it? He's like, him. Points at my younger son. I run at him. I was like, hey! And I run at him. And I became a child for a second,
Except you're an adult.
and I have an adult body.
You do.
And usually you run at them and you tag and you push off just a little bit so they run away. They can't do a tag back. And I pushed off and I decleated my son.
Obliterated him.
I speared him
on a driveway. It
And
wasn't
so
even in the lawn.
He hits the ground and like road rash.
Betrayal.
Otis and he turns around and looks at me like, "What have you done to me? I loved you." And then I somehow, while doing a somehow while I'm doing that, I stub my toe on the driveway, all in one motion.
That is such an understatement because your toe is wrecked. I mean, you put on a brave face, but you bled on my house a lot.
Dude, it looks like somebody took a thimble off of my big toe and it was all of the skin was the thimble. It was like you stripped it. You know, you take wire strippers
It's
and
scalped.
yeah, my toe. Yes, my big toe is scalped.
Yeah, your toe looks like the toe on that human anatomy exhibit they did like 15 years ago where they got like a cross section of half of the guy's body and it's all like muscles and groin and stuff. Your toe looks like that. The rest of you still looks like a person.
Yeah. And so I walked back in the house. I said, "I'm hurt. Matt, I need you have a Band-Aid?
Did something. Bleeding.
You have a Band-Aid." You're like, "Dude, what are you were literally outside for 10 seconds. What just happened?"
And that's the truth. We were down in the editing room. I literally only got a text and I just held it up and did a quick voice response. I probably only turned my back to the whole scene for 10 seconds. And in that time, you destroyed your relationship with your youngest son irreparably, and you'll probably never walk again. It was an amazing achievement. I mean, only an engineer could demonstrate that level of efficiency.
Yeah, man. I need to play tag more often. This was bad.
Yeah, I'll get a tackling dummy out, and we'll work on the intensity level of the tag.
Good point. So I've already started filming another video. You and I talk frequently about the videos we could make if we wanted to win the internet.
Yeah.
But the videos that we actually decide to make because of the impact we want to make. A video that I've already started filming is called Why Christians Go on Mission Trips.
You're doing that.
I'm doing it. I'm going to do it on Smarter Every Day.
I thought you were just joshing.
No, I've already started filming it. And
Okay.
I was talking to George about that the other day. And I was like, "Hey, man, this has got to happen. I want to make this video. I really, really do." And so my wife and daughter are in another country right now. And I said, "Hey, when you're there, can you just give me a little bit of video? Just a little bit. I just want to kind of talk a little bit about how this works." I got a buddy of mine that went on a mission trip to Peru with me. And I said, "Hey, man, can you come over real quick?" He's like, "Yeah." He comes over. He's like, "What's up?" And I ambushed him with the camera. You've done that to people. I'm like, "Surprise, you're on video." He's like, "Oh, okay. What are we doing?" And I was like, "Hey, you're awesome. You're a Christian. You're just a fun dude. Why do you go on mission trips?" And he looked up at the ceiling and he goes, "Huh." He was doing the math. He was like, "Okay,
What should I say?
do I go honest? Do I?" And then
Yeah.
he goes, and then he said, "If I'm honest," I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be good." He said, "If I'm honest, a little bit is because I like to travel." He led with that. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. My answer would be the same.
Yeah.
I've done a ton of that. Yeah. I mean, that motivated me. I like to travel. I like to meet different people. Okay, continue.
And then it switches at some point, right? And then,
Yeah.
because one of the fairest criticisms I've ever had was a guy said, "Hey, why are you going to this place down there? Why don't you just take the money it would cost for your airplane and just send that and then let them do whatever the project is that they need done?" And I was like, okay, that's a fair question.
What's your answer to that fair question?
I think that's why I want to make the video. I mean, the answer is we are compelled by the love that we've experienced through Jesus. I'll say it. JPMs go up. We are compelled by the love that we've experienced through Jesus and forgiveness and the gospel to go love other people. Love people here too. But what I found
Even
is
if they don't become Christians?
yeah, especially.
Obviously.
Yeah,
right?
especially if they don't become Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that's most interesting is once you go and you see what other people are dealing with, you learn that they're real. These are real people.
Yeah.
And they're just like me. Your ability to love them goes through the roof. And they're no longer just a child you supported on, some kind of adopted child, pay monthly thing. They're an actual person and you love them and they love you, and it changes you. And so I think one of the main reasons that Christians go on mission trips is not to help the other place or person or whatever. It's not what many memes would have you believe that Christians think. It's like poverty tourism. That's not it. It's to make you more others-centered. I mean, there's many reasons. There's the gospel reason. There's the thing that changes in you. There's the ability to encourage the person where you're going. It's just a big deal. It's just a neat thing.
I think it's okay. The critique is real, though, about the poverty tourism thing. It's just anachronistic.
I don't know what that word means. I'm supposed to.
It means that what you're saying
is that a
is
person
true,
that like swings
but the
around and
timing is
balances on
wrong.
other people's hands?
Yeah, that's an anachronist. And they wear like those like tiger singlets and hold gigantic barbells that bend in the middle with huge balls on each end.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then a skinnier version of them balances on their finger on top of that.
That's
that
anachronist.
big dumbbell. That's
Yeah.
an anachronist. No, an anachronism is something that is true. You just got the timing wrong. For example, I was messing with some art for a video I was doing, and I was using this expansion AI stuff that you can do with Photoshop now.
You're going to teach me how to do that, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. But in doing so, I expanded a painting of the temple and Pontius Pilate. And in expanding it up using AI, it was amazing. Everything just flowed, except it took a Roman pillar that had a triumph on it. So it had the story of a Roman victory etched on this pillar. It turned it into a minaret.
What's a minaret?
That's an Islamic site of worship. It's those spires that you see.
Okay.
That like calls to prayer will come out of speakers on a minaret in the Middle East or around Jerusalem, Palestine. And so is it true that there are minarets or things like that in and around Jerusalem? Well, yes. But I still deleted it on that work of art, the tip that made it look like a minaret, because it's true at the wrong time. Islam didn't exist yet at the time of that particular bit of art, and the AI just misread it. So it's true, the timing's just wrong. It's anachronistic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Where I would say that critique of mission trips is anachronistic is that before the internet, when people really didn't know how everything was around the world, you never saw it. There are no pictures of it. You had no idea. The first time I went to Juarez, Mexico as a kid, it's like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
I drove across a bridge or a ramp or something, and everything changed. All the brands are different. The streets are different. The utilities are different.
The light just turned sepia tones.
It's so crazy. Like just right there, I'm at. Oh, okay. 5,200 Kelvin. 3,700 Kelvin when I lean this way. It's incredible. If I stand right here with my nose right here, my right eye has got 5,200 cool white, and my left eye is just crazy warm. How does that even happen?
Is the sun always dead center in the top of the sky in Mexico? It's funny.
It's true.
Yeah.
I see what you're referencing. Everything felt so different, and I had no idea. I had no idea what it was like to be a kid on a border town or in a border town in Mexico. No clue. Now, yeah, I kind of do. I have a pretty good sense of the world because I'm a citizen of the internet. So is everybody who's listening to this. If you take what Christian trips looked like in the 1990s, which was, I can't believe how much stuff I have and how many opportunities I have. And I didn't get it till I saw that kid right there whose tummy is bloated and that guy with a bone in his nose. And I had no idea there was a place like rural Africa. This is blowing my mind. Well, in the 90s, it was a really helpful lesson to get people out of the mindset of the West in the 90s. But I don't think most people are going on these trips now, given how much more global of a community we have and how much more we understand what the world is like in different places. I don't think people are going on that trip now. So it's a fair critique. It's just timed wrong, is my point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But when I went to Ecuador, which is where I went for the first time, changed my life. I remember walking the streets. Now, there's different types of Ecuador, so to speak. You've got the highlands up in the mountains, and you got the jungle. I was up in the highlands, which frankly I prefer. It's interesting that there's different peoples in different areas of the country. Peru's the same way, but something about the people in the highlands, they work very, very hard. You know, you want to eat, you got to work the land. You got to take a hoe and you got to go dig that hole and you got to go put a little potato seedling in there.
Environment shapes culture.
You're in the jungle, you just wake up and walk outside and pick fruit off a tree.
Yeah, it's wild.
You don't have to do anything. And that changes the way the people are. But I remember walking the streets in this one town in Ecuador.
In a good way. There's a chill that comes with that is attractive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Thank you for qualifying that and saving me from myself there. Because I spend a lot of time thinking about the jungles of Iquitos, Peru. Now, for me, that's where a part of my heart is in the jungles of Iquitos, Peru. But going back to that place in Ecuador, I remember walking the streets, looking down, and I was with a bunch of school children, and we were talking, and there was a syringe, a used syringe, just right there on the sidewalk. I remember thinking, oh, wow, that's right there. And a lot of that's being a closed-minded kid from what was, I guess, suburban Alabama at the time. I just remember thinking, man, things are different. And it just changed the way I look at everything. And it's fun to know that your daughter in Mexico right now, my daughter in Uganda right now, she's working, by the way, with Africa Renewal Ministries, which I know you don't do hardly ever. Do you do any kind of sponsorship on your 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast? But I know you took a swing for that one, not for financial gain, but to help some people out. And thank you again for doing that. That was really cool. They were telling me the other day about how big of a deal that was for them. So thank you for doing that.
Cool.
Seriously, had a whole phone call about that. They wanted to talk to me before they talked to you because they're like, yeah, we don't think it was great for Matt, but it was huge for us. So
Really? It helped?
Yeah, big time. It was significant. They're going to talk to you later. They want to know.
That's cool.
Yeah, because it was very, very helpful.
Huh.
And
yeah, my heart's been heavy about that because you know how some things go over the waterfall?
Yeah.
And then when you realize it, they're so far over the waterfall, like, oh no, I had a call from somebody and it was 4 months ago. Do I look like an even bigger chump to call back now? And then you think about it and then new stuff comes downstream and you forget about it again for a month. I was going to do some more stuff for them to just try to make myself useful. And
I think that was a pretty important moment for them. That was like, kind of a spearman type situation where like, this is unknown territory. What does this look like? And so long story short, my daughter's over there right now. She's getting to hang out with our sponsored kids. And
she might run into our sponsored kid.
Oh, really?
He's in Uganda. Yeah.
That's awesome. We can talk about that later. All that to say, I want to make that video. I'm going back through the pins. I want to make that video. George is also extremely excited about that. And it's just really fun to be in a place where you can make things that you genuinely care about.
So do you understand the point of those trips? And when you make the video, are you going to say the point of the trip is to get other people to become Christians?
Yeah, the Great Commission. You have to say that.
It's what it is, right? And I know it. Look, I'm conscious of what we're doing here. We're talking with people who believe a trillion different things. I can say it. Our audience is not quite a trillion at this point.
No, it's just a little less than a trillion.
Everybody holds so many views at any given time and over the course of your life. Every single person represents a plethora of dreams and ambitions and ideas and opinions, some of which conflict, some of which are neatly in harmony. There's so many ideas represented by the people who are listening to this conversation right now. And I know that tons of those are not even in the same zip code as you and I in terms of this motivation that we feel. But unapologetically, I think there's life in this. I think there are weird, goofy things about the history of Christianity and church, and I see it. That's what I went to school for. I find that stuff very interesting when it is beautiful and when it's clumsy. I'm fascinated by all of it. But the core thing, the values of Jesus, the values of the kingdom of God, and the reality of a God who started all of this, I'm in. I think it. And I've been through the ringer with it.
I'm in too. I think that's what's interesting about our relationship is that we're both in on that, and that's more important than even the friendship, but the friendship is grounded in that. And so I don't know, it's a strange thing. And so I think you're absolutely right. I think the gospel it has the power to save people and change people. It's huge. The idea that you would put others before yourself and that you could forgive people for things they've done to you that they don't even ask for forgiveness for.
That there's a mechanism for that.
Yeah.
And I use that language a lot. Different expressions of religion and different expressions of Christianity, they're not all the same. Some have a defensible, logical, ethical, theological mechanism to accomplish certain things that are really important. The theological mechanism built in to Christian thought for forgiveness is remarkable. Even if I didn't think there's a God, I think that is perhaps the most important intellectual development in the history of Earth.
Forgiveness?
Yes. And specifically, not just out of charity, I forgive you because I want to be forgiven back. I mean, that's awesome. There are lots of reasons to forgive. But the Christian theological mechanism for forgiveness is profound. It's because the deity of the religion, who is held out as being the initiator of existence over non-existence, took on human flesh and died as an act of forgiveness, as an act of reconciliation to a humanity that didn't even want to be reconciled to him in the first place. And then what does that character go and teach? You have to give away the forgiveness you've received. You don't get the forgiveness you've received if you don't feel some sort of deep impulse to give it away. Doesn't mean it's always easy, but this is the foundation of the relationship with God in Christian theology. And so it's just baked in. It doesn't mean Christians always do it. I mean, it doesn't mean I always do it, but the reconciliatory mechanism is incredible. And it's why fundamentalism is such a pity. When you see weird Christian cults that develop, one of the first things they do is they drop the forgiveness, which is the bedrock of the whole thing, and they replace it with much better behavior and higher expectations and more rigorousness.
And the ability to hold that over people to say, hey, you've done something wrong. You remember that wrong thing you've done? Well, you should feel bad about it so that I can make you think about it so that you will serve me more because I'm the powerful one here, because I keep up with who did what. I'm the keeper of records of wrong.
Right. And when the IP was developed in the first place, whoever was in charge didn't have the foresight to grab the copyright on the cross and be like, nobody can use this for bastardized purposes at all. And we're going to go after anybody who does. So it's really public domain at this point, which means that anybody can take that symbol or that word and be like, this is Christian, even though they're completely getting it backwards. The Christian assumption is people are broken and damaged and hurt, and they will do broken, damaging, hurtful things to themselves and others. There isn't a mechanism to fix that fully and completely. To eradicate bad behavior would be to eradicate all people. So there isn't a mechanism to solve that in this lifetime. Instead, what you need is a safety net. You need a what to do when you've screwed up avenue. That's realism. It's not escapism. It's not fantasy. You must have a robust mechanism for forgiveness and what to do when you've screwed up to have a functioning ethical intellectual system. And Christianity doesn't just offer that as like, hey, here's a good way to live. This will help you. It's like the God who's held out as ordaining this whole thing is like, this is going to be hard for you to understand without seeing it first. Let me show you how it works. It's going to be bloody, but just check this out. This is how it works. And that is so freaking compelling to me. I can't shake it. I tried to be an atheist for a while because I was dinged up by church and getting this stuff backwards. I can't shake it. I think there are a lot of people like me who completely understand and respect and appreciate that not everyone holds the same convictions as me. But if you hear a great song or you see a beautiful work of art or you encounter even like a product that changes your life, you feel this little impulse inside of you to be like, this is good.
I should tell other people.
I should give this to other people. I would even want my enemies to have this. It's good. How much more so when it's this thing that provides this endless pressure release valve for the human mess that I'm a part of making. So I believe there's actually an answer for the stuff that ails us individually and corporately. And so I keep coming back to this. And that, I think that's why on our best days, and it's not always our best day, let's be honest, but I think that's why on our best days, that's why we load up a bunch of goofy people and we get matching shirts and we fly to some country where we barely speak the language and we try to do something good. I think that's the idea.
So I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about a plaque, and I want to talk about how things are changing culturally. My buddy, he decided he was going to invest in Uganda. And by invest, I mean time.
Yeah.
relationally. I'm not talking
Can we
about,
say his name?
yeah, Ty.
Talking about Ty.
Ty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So Ty is going to invest in a specific city. He ends up adopting children from there. He goes many, many times, and he's sitting there with this one guy. One of the first trips they got there, they linked up with this driver, and this driver would drive them around to where they need to go, and they would help different people. One of my favorite things he started over there was called the Bean Project. I don't think they do it anymore because they don't have to, but Ty's a good businessman, and he says, hey, you'll go to one village and everybody will sell charcoal. You go to the next village and everybody will sell whatever it is.
Yes.
A product. Because they see that one person
Mm-hmm.
sold something and it worked. Therefore, that's how you make money. So I'll do that too. And so you'll have a village where 20 people are selling charcoal.
You can't deny the logic of it.
You can't.
I want to feed my family. That lady's feeding her family doing that. I'm going to give that a go.
But instead of diversification of goods, oftentimes you'll see in a village, the price of the product goes through the floor. It's bad.
And now nobody makes anything and nobody's supporting their family.
Right.
Yeah. And in their defense, that's complex economics.
It is. But this thing that Ty started is he taught some local leaders in the village, many women leaders, and some men as well. I don't remember. I've never been to Uganda, but just hearing about it's very interesting. He taught them about how to purchase beans, like just after the harvest when they're cheap, and save them until later in the year when people aren't making beans,
Right.
and the price goes up.
Yeah.
And then you sell them, and then that's your profit. So these local leaders went
and
in
it
together.
stabilizes the price throughout the year. So you have predictability on an important staple food in a part of the world where that predictability would actually provide a public value to everyone.
Genius. It's just a genius idea. And so just taught everybody how to do that. Hey, we're going to call this the Bean Project. If you guys want to, you can pool your money together and you can buy these beans. Didn't give them a dime. Just said, this is how it works. Would you like to learn? I would love to teach you. Taught these individuals how to do it. They did it. And then all ships rise with the tide. And so slowly the economics of the local town go up. And it's great. And so Ty said on one of his trips years later, he's sitting there, they're outside of some building waiting on somebody. And the driver goes, you guys are different. Why? He said, what do you mean? He said, the thing that happens oftentimes is some Mzungus will come over here and they'll go build a thing. And
is that what we are in Uganda? That's Ugandan gringo is Mzungu?
I think that's, or Mzungo, something like that.
I've been to Uganda. I have not heard that one.
That's a word I hear people joke about a lot. I assume that's the word. I don't
like
know.
it. It's catchy.
I don't know.
I hope we're using it wrong. It's super offensive.
Me too. He said one of the things that people will do is they'll go build a thing over the course of a week and they'll get done with their thing and then they'll put a plaque on it. This particular thing was made by First Baptist Rapid City South. Well, there's probably
fundamentalist.
There's probably actually a church called that. I can't say that.
Yeah, you were getting close to some.
Yeah. We'll call it the Third United Free Baptist.
That's great. That's all the words.
Yeah,
you're getting a ton of them right there.
Yeah, and so this plaque goes on the thing, and it ends up not being something you did to help other people. It ends up being a virtue signal, a thing you did so that you can feel good about you, and you get to put your name on it.
Huh, yeah.
I think that's interesting.
I saw something like that in Costa Rica.
Yeah?
Last time we were traveling there. There's a tennis court. I wanted to play tennis court with my daughter. Found one. It was really cool. It had a plaque on it. Like, this was a project of such and such church. And I thought, thanks. Also, there was clearly no plan for maintenance. Like, this thing is trash.
Well, that's. I mean, When Helping Hurts talks about that a lot. If people are not invested in the thing they're doing, then eventually it's
yeah. We got to come back to that because that's the ticket with all of this. But continue.
So anyway, Ty was telling me about this conversation with his driver about a plaque, and the driver was like, "Why don't you do your thing and put a plaque on it? Why are you different? What's different?" And he had an opportunity to explain his motivation, what was different, and I think it's very, very interesting. And that's part of the thing I want to talk about in this mission video. Why do Christians go on mission trips? Because to be honest, intellectually honest, we have to point out all the things we get wrong. And then every once in a while, you get it right.
Well, what do we get wrong?
Okay.
So you got the plaque.
Okay, here is a very concrete example because I think about it often.
Okay.
I was in Honduras in the mid-aughts, 20 aughts.
I still cringe at that, by the way.
20 aughts?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I say 2000s.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a nightmare.
I don't know what to say.
No, maybe other languages have something better for that. But
In
English, you're just stuck. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
in the 2000 mid, I don't know, first decade in that.
We just sound dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to Honduras.
Went to Honduras, and we're there, and we're working with this. There's this local orphanage situation, and there's a guy from Alabama. He lives in Honduras, and
Okay.
that's what he does.
Okay.
Genuinely awesome dude, helping people. And he was doing it right. And then here comes Mr. Engineer from Alabama, this Destin
It's a
guy.
rocket scientist.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Mom.
Very smart. Very smart in his own head. He really thinks he's good at solving problems, this Destin guy.
Mhm.
He's down there.
No beard yet or anything.
No. He's
knows.
probably never going to get one. Yeah.
I've seen you.
So he's down there working his tail off, and he's, saving the world for good in his mind. Really, really cares. Loves Jesus.
Awesome.
Wants other people to love Jesus. But he knows a thing or two. He thinks he can solve some stuff.
Oh.
The driver that drove the bus around or whatever, just a local handyman that kind of lives next door to the orphanage. He's a cool dude, and they develop a friendship over the course of the week. They worked on some stuff together, and Destin pulls out his Leatherman and like works on some stuff, puts it back up, and every once in a while the guy's like, "Hey, can I borrow that? I need to do something." Yeah, So he uses my Leatherman and stuff like that. So I just developed a friendship with this guy. At the end of the week, he said, "Hey, you want to come over and see the house or whatever?" I forget why I was at his house, but basically he invited me over for something quick. I was like, "Sure." And I went in, and I went in his house, and I looked around, and I noticed, like, wow, there's like 2 rooms here, no bathroom. He clearly cooks, or his wife cooks right there, and smoke gets all over the place in here. And man, this is hard. There's a hammock, a single hammock in a dirt floor room. And I look up, and there's holes in the roof over his hammock. In my broken Spanish, I said, "Well, what happens when it rains?" He goes, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Rain just comes through the roof." I was like, "On top of you while you're in the hammock?" He's like, "Yeah. Why don't you just put metal on your roof?" And he laughs at me. He's like, "Lamina?" Metal in Spanish. "Lamina?" No, muy caro. Very expensive. I was like, "Really?" He's like, yeah, that's crazy. You don't just put metal on your roof." I was like, "Well, how much?" He's like, he tells me the amount. It's about $150 US. And I was like, $150 and this man can have a roof. I love this man. I want this man to have a roof. Yeah. Everything I have is yours. We're friends. Yes. Why don't we do it? Why don't we put a roof on your house? And he looks at me kind of like puzzled, like, "What?" I was like, "Let's put a roof on your house." I was like, "We got 2 more days. How long does it take to put metal up here?" He's like, No, you'd have to buy it first. I was like, "Okay. What's the next question?" He's like, "No, it would take us like half a day to do this."
$150 was a big deal to you at that point in your life.
It was.
I mean, it's still a big deal, but it was a big deal to you at that point in your life.
It was, but it was easily within striking distance.
Okay.
And so I said, "Let's put a roof on your house. I've decided we're going to do that." And he's like, "Okay." In my heart, I really love this man. I really, really, really wanted to help him. This man was smart. He had the ability to put a roof on his house at any point he wanted to. I know that now. I did not know that then. He was choosing not to put a roof on his house for whatever reason. And so I think genuinely, with my more mature brain, I do not have a mature brain, but with my more mature brain, I'm less stupid than I was. I don't know, man. There's no way to say what I'm trying to say, but you know what you're just smiling at me, watching me dig the hole.
There's no hole. Hopefully
Shut up.
we're all growing
Yes.
all the time. I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm trying to say. I can see now that in my earnestness, I think I caused this man harm by helping him put a metal roof on his house. And I think the reason I did that is because I created an unnatural dependency on his relationship with that orphanage next door. I also think the fact that his house now
The only one with a metal roof.
is the only one with a metal roof, I think that changes his standing in the community in possibly a bad way. I took my American mentality and cultural norms into a different culture where what they value is different. I projected what I thought was important on someone else. And it was just stupid. It was stupid. I had a blast helping him take the clay tiles off that roof and putting a metal one up. And at the end of that project, I gave him my multi-tool and said, "This is yours, man, because we're friends and I love you." I think all of that stuff I did in that moment, I can look back at that and say that was about me.
When's the last time you talked with that guy?
I haven't.
I knew that would be the answer.
Yeah, you did. It's Jorge, but I haven't. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, have you ever had a situation like this? Have you ever felt something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. That's why it was easy for me to see where that one was going.
Yeah.
Oh, that's heading right for the embankment. I know this embankment. Oh, we're going to roll the car. And we did.
Yeah. But what's interesting is as I've gone, you mature through, you mature through experience and through people that are wiser that have gone before you and can explain things. Like the thing that Ty was saying about we didn't put a plaque up and the guy noticed that. I wouldn't have understood that. I was like, man, yeah, let's go build a thing and let's give it to him and put our name on it. I wouldn't see that. And so that's why I think I want to make the videos, because I want to be honest about that stuff. And reading that book, When Helping Hurts, really changed the way I think about that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just gushed a lot and I said a lot of negative things about what I've done in the past. So, I don't know. I'm feeling a little embarrassed to tell you that.
Look, here's a place of collegiality, though. For most of my life, I have believed there was a God. For a period of time, I did not. It's a weird story. I understand there are even certain people who are like, you're just lying about that. I get that feedback on the internet. I'm not lying about it.
You're not lying about it, dude.
I can't empirically prove this.
I'm sitting in your house. I know what your skill set is. I know what that kind of skill set can do as a real estate agent. I know what you could choose to do if you wanted to, and you're deciding not to because you're all in on this, and I think that's super rad.
Thank you. And I've been not in on this too, is the point. A huge part of the reason I'm all in on this is because of very hard times in my life. The whole thing that I do on the internet is because of things that went poorly, because of deep transformative moments in my life, however many years ago when I was a young man, and without even trying to, deeply explored not faith alongside faith. I don't need to go through my whole story. It's hard to even explain my whole story because so much of it isn't visible and there's not corresponding events or anything to point to. I went through some stuff. I considered what I believed about any of this, and I didn't even mean to or set out to. I just did. So I have a very weird story of faith, and I get that. I understand it. And I understand that some people, Christians, not Christians, they don't know what to do with it. But I will say this. It makes me very empathetic to people who sincerely don't believe in God. Really empathetic, because I get it. I've felt what it's like to be on all sides of that. I've felt what it's like to sincerely want to believe, and I just can't. It just feels dead on the other side of it. I've also felt what it feels like to go through the gauntlet and come out the other side and say, I can't make sense of this any other way. I cannot shake it, not just for logical, here's why, there's 9 proofs for this reasons, but for all kinds of other reasons, philosophical, heart level stuff. I mean, it's too much. I don't really want to offer a defense for why I struggled with faith for a long time, why my faith broke, and why I'm a Christian now. It's just to people who are listening to us talk about stuff like this when it comes up in our conversations. If you're in a place of not faith, just know I really, really get it.
I think it's cool that people are open-minded enough that, I know a lot of people that listen to this don't share our faith. I think it says a lot about the people that still hang around and hang out with us that disagree with us on that. That's very mature of those individuals. And hey, thanks, third chair, if that's you.
Agreed. And what it says about them is that their not belief in God or Jesus or whatever at this point is honest. If you're willing to sit through conversations like this where we just, for whatever reason, like, I don't know, the Jesus thing's a pretty big part of our lives. It's going to come up from time to time because it's the nature of what this friendship and what this podcast is. For people to be there and listen to it and think about it and whatever, I mean, that tells me you're in an honest place of not belief. Let's tell the truth. It was very fashionable for a time. I think this is starting to ebb. It was very fashionable for a time. There were social points to be scored by not thinking there was a God in the mid-20-teens, early 20-teens.
And then the pendulum swung, and then it was fashionable to go to people like Matt Whitman and take a big old dump on them. Yeah. I mean, and that has been the norm for quite a while now. And that's the second thing I wanted to talk about earlier is I think the pendulum is starting to swing back.
I think so too.
Like I think people are realizing, wait, we tried the not forgiveness really, really hard thing for a while. Like, what? you did this one thing wrong. And, let's be real. A lot of the stuff was very, very bad that these people did. But an unwillingness to acknowledge that people can change and should change.
Or to acknowledge that it might take a minute.
Yeah.
We just can't dispose of people. That guy, that lady, they don't see it yet. But there's some degree of mercy or empathy that you can summon. And within, again, Christian thought, there's a theological mechanism. It's not just muster the will to think nice things about other people. There's this whole thing built in, baked into the most fundamental framework of Christian thought that gives you a reason to be patient with somebody who does not see it yet and is not asking for forgiveness. That person still gets forgiveness in Christian thought.
But what's interesting about that is, like, even in my own walk with Jesus and faith here, I still feel like I'm learning. That first time in Honduras, I look back at that and I'm embarrassed. I'm like, man, I got that so very wrong.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. So here's my question. Like, what am I getting wrong right now? Because I know I am.
Well, of course you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Okay, first of all, I have stories like that too. I'm just going to skip it.
Yeah.
I feel so gross about the stuff that I've gotten wrong in that regard. But collegiality, man, been there. I get it.
Got it.
No judgment. This is just an epistemological truth. You're wrong about things right now that you think you're right about, but you don't know what things you're wrong about. And I don't just mean Jesus and theology. I mean everything. There are things that you think about the physical world. We're wrong about stuff. All the great scientists of the past were wrong about things. I do think that epistemic humility is a lost art in both the world of faith and the world of physical science. It's certainly a lost art in the world of political discourse and social discourse. The point is, every single person listening to this, including the people having the conversation, you and me, we are wrong about things. Now, there are a few of us, and maybe there have been a few times in my life where I knew I was wrong and I didn't care because my soul was damaged. I was hurt. I was mad about something. I had something to prove. I really needed to be right, and I needed to force reality to fit with what I'd already said so I could save face or whatever my weird, needy insecurity thing was. But usually, I think you, and I think probably everybody listening, usually we wouldn't want to be wrong. And if we're wrong, well, when we find out that something else is better, we would want to think the other thing. It's just hard to know what you're wrong about. It's just hard to know. And you don't know when you don't know.
And what's confounding about that, confounding meaning, I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, but what I mean it to mean is what makes it even more complicated to suss that out right now is that there are approved ideas. And
there are always approved ideas.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
But there are ideas that are socially acceptable in whatever group you're in, and ideas that are not socially acceptable, the Overton window, right?
Yeah.
What's confounding about that whole thing is you have this way that you go about through the world, and you think you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And then often we're just not.
Right. And awareness plus time equals the ability to admit that. It costs me very little to admit something I thought I was right about that I was wrong about 15 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
I really, really wanted us to invade Iraq in 2001.
Interesting.
Like, oh, well, there's weapons of mass destruction. The news wouldn't just say that. You can't just say that if it's wrong. There are weapons of mass destruction. We need to invade and stop that. They 9/11'd us. We have to do something. Patriot Act? Man, I'm a principled libertarian, so we have to do something.
So wrong on that.
Not in 2001. I was very young. But I was like, yeah, we need to do that. It costs me nothing. No, it does less than cost me nothing. It benefits me socially right now to admit my wrongness on those things.
That's right.
But I wasn't going to admit it as soon as I started to realize I was wrong, which was about the time that was being passed. And I actually thought about the verbiage of it the day it was being passed. Wait a minute. This might not be a good idea. Well, I guess we're in. I mean, I wanted it. And so
it's like that day. There's not cameras on phones yet, but when there is, we're just going to power up Matt Whitman's and watch him take a shower.
That's it, which I drink a lot of milk and I work out, so I understand why people would want to. It's realization of wrongness plus time makes it easy, even beneficial to admit wrongness and grow. What's hard is to realize you're wrong about something and make the change. So all of that to say,
yeah,
I really hear you on this. I appreciate the remark. You know you're wrong about things, you just don't know where. I'm in the same boat. I don't like that. I would rather be right about all the things, but I'm not. But I'm grateful that I have been through weird stuff and chapters in my life that at least have given me some capacity to imagine that someone could disagree with me and still be good. Disagree with me and still think it sincerely. And I'm so grateful when people give me that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, me too. And getting all the way back to our daughters right now who are doing these things
Right.
in different countries. I am imagining that young Destin that saw that roof for the first time. I'm imagining what I felt. And I think that was important for me to have felt that, like the compassion and the empathy and
which is good. All good.
It's all good. It's all good. I didn't act on it well. And frankly, I think your daughter and my daughter, where they are, I'll speak for myself, they're better off in terms of knowing how to serve people and than I was for sure.
You can speak for me too on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they think more complexly than I did for sure. So I'm excited that they're taking that first little step out into the world to figure out what they want to do with it, how they want to affect it, how they want to be bigger players, and what they want to do to serve. I think that's fascinating and interesting.
And we send them on a trip like this because we want them to change. And
To
the
be
call
clear-
I
to be
just
clear-
got from my daughter.
You didn't send them; they wanted to go, or you didn't send her.
Yeah, it
She-
wasn't my idea.
I read her
Yeah,
letter.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Well said.
she-
This wasn't my
she
idea.
did
If anything, I dragged my heels.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
A little.
Yeah. When I got off the plane and started talking to you and said, "How's the day?" And you're like, "I'm all right." Well, what's up? I'm like, "Oh, no big deal. I just sent my daughter to a different country." Now your situation is different because my wife went with my daughter. Your daughter just left.
And she's going to come back different. And I know it. It's not like the old version of her died. It's just, this is kind of just a parenting thing more than a spiritual thing or a church thing. She's going to do something profound that really matters, that she picked, and she had gumption, and she made it happen. She paid for it. I can't even hold that over her. Like, hey, I'm paying for this. Come on. I got nothing. She just did it. The only thing I granted was permission. That was it. And it's going to change her. And the conversation I just had demonstrated that it's already happening.
Really?
But it was good. It's not refined and sharpened yet. She's trying out this new skill set and this new compassion. She's always been very compassionate. This new thread, this new flavor of compassion that's being awakened within her. It's there. And I think she feels it for the people she's there with. She's really trying out her Spanish. She's thrown a ton of work into that. She's excited about that. But she seems particularly excited about the people she's on the trip with who she didn't know very well, who have things going on, and stuff comes out when you go on a trip like that. And my daughter's gravitating toward that, and she wants to help. And it's not perfect, I'm sure, but that's being awakened, and she's going to come back different. And that's what I was feeling when we talked on the phone.
That's another thing about a trip like that. The things you go through with those other people on the trip that go with you are incredible. There's my buddy of mine has a story. They went to Moldova, and one of the guys there that they were working with happened to be a masseuse, just a really big, strong Eastern European masseuse.
Okay.
And the thing he wants to do to say thank you to you is like, "Oh, I'm going to give you a massage."
It is time for a massage. You get on the table, remove shirt all the way down to underwear. Do it. I have oil. This is good. This is how we say thank you.
And so
In
all the
Moldova.
guys that went on that trip were like, "Holy cow!" Yeah, ask you go back like, "Hey guys, how was the trip?" Well, you just ask him about the massage. So that's a story you live with for the rest of your life, and it's a beautiful thing. And the inside joke of all of it is, let me tell you about these people we loved, and we continue to love. And now that we've been and we've eaten at their table. We've held their children while their older kids played soccer. All the things. It's like you learn empathy on a completely different level. Maybe not learn empathy, but it unlocks the empathy in a different way for these people that you love. And it's not about making a plaque. For young Destin, maybe it was, but there's several ways I did it wrong. I can remember an even earlier thing where I was leaning into the legalism thing, where I was like, I'm going to do all this right. I'm going to be the person that gets this
and your
right.
standing and your value is something gained when you're in that phase by behaving better than other people.
Yeah. And that's how you score points.
Yeah, that's why I belong at the table. I'm very Good.
I'm just so very good.
Good. Yes. Yeah, and it's a silly phase, but I get the psychology behind it, and I've experienced it myself.
But the reality of this is, this that we're talking about is the church. When I say church, I'm not talking about a building. The church.
You mean Christians? Just
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
It's the only organization that in order to join, you first have to be like, yeah, I suck. I suck.
That's exactly the way you have to phrase it. But
you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's a relatively modern Calvinist articulation of it. Other groups have just built a little teeny tiny door into their church. For example, the Church of the Nativity in Palestine, in Bethlehem. For the longest time, the only way you could get in was through this little teeny tiny door.
Really?
The idea was you just got to get small to get into the presence of this God. You have to adopt a posture of humility to even get in the door, was the idea.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they're Catholic. So that's, for people in the third chair, that's a very different thread of historical Orthodox Christianity than the Calvinists, who I just mentioned. But look, they both look at the same God and they look at the same Bible and they're like, this just isn't about our awesomeness. Again, it's a theological mechanism baked in to say salvation is by the grace of a forgiving and patient and generous and glorious God who likes to redeem things, because that points out his awesomeness. And these things are not done by your great achievements, because the greatest of achievements on the part of a human still just don't stack up to the great and flawless achievements of the God who made existence instead of non-existence. So humility isn't a thing that, again, you should just aspire to because it's better to be humble. No, it's theologically baked into the whole thing. I think that's what you're saying.
Didn't say it that well, but yeah, absolutely. Okay, so all that being said, very interesting stuff. What do you think about me making a video about why Christians go on mission trips and putting it on Smarter Every Day? What do you think about that?
Here's the challenge. We did a conversation last time I was down at your place. I don't remember when we published it, but on this podcast, we did an episode about Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
And some kid who, maybe with the best of intentions, maybe he wanted to make a plaque, maybe he wanted to get a Christian college named after him. I don't know what he was going for. It was probably if he's anything like me, it was probably a mixed batch of motives. He got on a boat and went to an island it's illegal to go to, try to reach out to effectively a Stone Age mini civilization on this island in defiance of the law, and he got killed by the locals there. And I don't remember how the conversation or even the edit totally turned out on that, but I remember us both feeling a lot of trepidation about him doing it, but also I didn't sense that either of us wanted to forfeit the ground of, yeah, but if you think this is the truest, realist thing, like, you would want to give that away. Like, you'd want to communicate that to other people.
Or you're commanded to.
Right. And so I don't think his strategy there was particularly shrewd or wise. It might not have been the best way to do it. But I think one of the questions that the internet is going to have, if Smarter Everyday Guy makes that video, is they're going to think of stuff like that. They're going to think of really legitimately very broken examples from the era when colonialism was able to mingle with a certain percentage of the missionary movement. And that is real. You can't just write that stuff off. Some of those Southern California missions, and they're beautiful. And the stories that go along with them, there's some pretty ugly stuff. You think about the missions to the Native Americans, the First Nations in Canada, and the stuff that came out about that. That's pretty ugly. Now it sounds like I'm just picking on Catholics, but you think about some of the Protestant missions in India, in inland Africa. There really are some pretty disappointing examples. And then there are also examples where governments, old world governments, just because of the era we're talking about, co-opted certain Christian language or certain really government agents, but flying under the banner of the cross. And they sent them out to do stupid stuff or soften things up with pseudo-evangelism to get people to sort of believe vaguely in the God that the colonizers don't even really believe in. Like, there's ugly stuff that was compromised. There's ugly stuff that happened also with the best of motives. And it was just so poorly done and thoughtless toward the people who were being reached out to. It's just ugly. But there's so much awesome.
Yeah.
There's so much good.
I've seen it.
And the truth is both. And I can't put a percentage on it, look, I spent a lot of time studying this stuff. I think the bulk of it has been a gesture of genuine service that's made everybody on earth richer and more functioning together as a community. That's before you even get into that I think this is actually true and good for the soul. But your internet audience is going to come to that, and they're going to see the title of that video, and they are going to remember some anecdotes that they've heard that frankly are fair criticisms of things that happened in the name of the church and from mission stuff.
And I think I have to hit that head on.
I think you have to, man. It's the point. They're going to picture Sentinel Island stuff, and you just can't run from it because it's true and it's real and it's ugly.
In fact, I've already started filming the video.
Oh, have you?
I have. So I talked to this guy named J.D. Payne.
Mhm.
He's a professor of missiology at Samford University in Birmingham. Super smart guy. I went in being like, oh, I'm so excited about this video right now. I'm going to edit it and have it out in the end of the month, right?
How long ago was that?
Yeah, it was a few months ago.
Yeah, it sounds like us.
Probably more than that, yeah.
It's just hard. You get to it when you get to it.
And then I talked to JD, and I realized that this topic is so much more complex than I first thought. I read one book,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, I understand now. And then I realized I do not understand. Like the whole argument about colonialism affecting, how it was done in the early days, that's a huge criticism, and it's something that deserves time to understand. And so I'm excited about making this video, but I want it to be done well. So I may run this by you and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And as always, gloves off, give me full feedback.
Sure. Well, I have a thought before you even get into it. It is normative right now to lump any kind of cultural interaction that involves the West plus anybody else as colonialism. I think that's a misnomer. Cultures have been bumping up against each other since forever. The earliest people groups were nomadic, meaning they all just walked around in big loops over the course of several years to reap the benefit of the best of a given season in a given place and then to let it regrow for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. They ran into each other. That was a good thing. They exchanged stuff. Knowledge began to transcend individual people groups, and language did. And then all the things that their elders had learned from standing on the shoulders of the people before them, you could now have in exchange for what you had. You could give it to them. It's like playing the first few rounds of Civilization.
Can you imagine what it would be like to live in one village and then your neighboring village discovers fire?
That would be incredibly helpful. Like, I'm mad you guys figured it out first. Don't get me wrong.
Also, what did you do?
we got, what can we give you for fire? We have sharpened sticks. No, we already got that. Dang it.
Do you think fire?
We figured out how to wipe with pine cones. Really? Okay, you can have fire. Deal.
That's a great point. I wonder what the value of fire was. I wonder what was traded to give away fire.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably pretty rad. The point being...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's just cultural exchange is a thing, and it's overwhelmingly been really, really good. It's just that because of the shape of the world and where the water sits, some of it is going to be wildly out of balance, and you're going to have people groups who have the equivalent of warp technology interacting with people groups who have the equivalent of fire and sticks.
Are you saying that the concept of forgiveness and forgiving those that have harmed you is the equivalent of warp drive?
I'm almost sure I'm not saying that.
I'm sorry. That sounded fun.
It's going to be clumsy. You can't just throw all the cultures together and expect everybody to be like, this is great. Let's make a flag with all our colors and just hug forever. It's not going to happen. There will always be implicit friction and tension amongst any set of people you try to mush together. And it's okay. We're trying really hard to do that right now. And it's not going perfectly. And we get after each other and it's weird. It's really easy to just take all of that and just put it on like the missionary movement. That's who did it, and it didn't work. But wait, we like being together with people we're not like. This, as a basic premise, we're super, super for this. And so I think there's an opportunity to make this video as well to just point out that cross-cultural exchange is actually good.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, it's indisputable that cultures get good things from other cultures, and sometimes, there's bad things in there too. I see what you're trying to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, the expression in Spanish is vale la pena.
What?
Vale la pena. Worth the pain.
Vale
La pena.
la pena.
Not pena. Pena.
Pena.
pain.
I thought pain was dolor.
That also works.
What does vale mean?
That is the stead conjugation of valer, which is a verb to be worth a certain thing.
Oh, interesting.
So vale, it was or it is worth the pain.
Wow. Okay.
Now, valio la pena would be it was worth the pain. Vale la pena would just mean it is worth the pain.
Okay.
It hurts to put cultures together. It will not be balanced. They will have weird influences on each other, sometimes outsized influences on each other. But from a purely anthropological human point of view, historically, cultural exchange has been a very good thing. And even from a purely evolutionary biological point of view, it's kind of been one of the big things that sets us apart as humans from everything else that walks the earth.
Yeah. We have the ability to share ideas quickly and use the good ones and adapt quickly in order to overcome whatever obstacles that we're, oh, yeah, hey, if you use this kind of blubber, you will survive the winter, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And a lot of really great cultural exchange has happened as a result of religion. Even religions I don't agree with or believe in. I can concede that point. I can also think of some places where the outsized influence of one side on the other has been ugly.
So that's the point that I want to make with the video, I think, is that I believe it's incredibly important. Oftentimes these criticisms that I hear are from people that have never, experienced it themselves, nor would they want to. But I'm just so very proud of our daughters for doing this right now, for choosing to serve other people. And it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy.
Yep.
There's going to be something they don't get right. They're going to end up wanting to put a metal roof on somebody's house, figuratively. I mean,
yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah, because they're doing something, dude.
Yeah, in a world of talkers, they're thinkers and doers.
There you go.
They're doing it
there
right
you
now.
Go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You think back to Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech. It's easy to criticize the person who's not out there doing something.
Yes.
Or, excuse me, it's easy to criticize the person that is doing something.
Yes.
While you sit back and not do something.
It takes no effort for me to tweet from my phone while I poop that someone else who's doing something is an idiot and they're not doing it right. It takes mountains of effort, like a lifetime of focus or a season of focus on one singular thing for me to go out and even try to accomplish a tenth of what that person is accomplishing. If you have a built-in theological mechanism for forgiveness, then you can forgive young Destin for being an idiot and trying. I can forgive young Matt for being an idiot and trying. 5 years from now, I'll be able to forgive right now Matt for being an idiot and trying. It just takes me a minute to figure out what I'm being an idiot about sometimes.
Yeah. That's one of the advantages of having close friendships like this is you can look at me and say, it's usually something like, hey, maybe try that again. Don't do it that way. And what you're saying is you're making a fool of yourself, but you don't know it. And what's great about this
I'm usually not saying that. I'm really not saying you're making a fool of yourself and you don't know it. We're talking about nips and tweaks usually when we give each other advice. It's not a wholesale, you've lost yourself and you're being an idiot, stop. It's this other way I think is more in keeping with what I sense you're trying to say because I know your heart and I know what you're trying to do.
Iron sharpens iron.
There you go.
And I appreciate the fact that you take the time to sharpen me.
Oh gosh, vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, forgiveness is awesome. Get you some.
Yes. Yes. Even if you cannot believe in our God, the forgiveness thing, it softens hearts. It changes everything. And I wish that for everyone. And I'm proud of our daughters for being the woman in the arena, the young lady in the arena, and going and taking a stab at giving that away to other people.